Hello, this is Vernon, and I'm back for part four of Chasing Time Travelers. My basic theory is that there are time travelers out there, and my little hobby is that I try to figure out where they are or who they are, and it's been fun. And I'm not sure if I've caught any yet, but I'm enjoying the chase. So I showed you this slide in the previous in part three. And just as a to repeat it, my theory is that the Yucatan Peninsula is actually a map of the heavens, meaning the ancient Mayan temples, the ancient Mayan temple cities spread out around across the Yucatan Peninsula are actually maps of planets, either, maps of planets with intelligent life. My theory is that there's roughly 4,000 planets out there. Arguably, I could say 4,400, but that's another discussion. 40, so roughly 4,000 planets with intelligent life, and one of those planets is us, Earth. And so we have a couple of cities dedicated to us, Chichen Itza and Uxmal. The problem is I'm not sure why we're split in two like that, and but I can tell you that the way it works out is that the North Pole and the South Pole are with Chichen Itza, but Asia is like a piece that's been bitten out of an apple and it's off to itself. So I don't know if that was done for some type to establish some type of validity or reliability or something like that. There's different methods in research, or if it means some part of the Earth is going to break off in a chunk. I have no idea, but anyway. So let's move on. Oh yeah, and I did find I'll probably forget to say this later, so I'll say it now. And one of the ways I tested my theory was I said, okay, um, if your theory is right and this is a map of the Western Hemisphere, then why aren't they showing Florida, right? And and then I found Florida, which I'll show you later. Then I was thinking, okay, if I'm not an astronomer or anything, but assuming those astronomers are right about black holes, then there should be at least one black hole in you know somewhere in or in the Yucatan Peninsula. And then I found the black hole, and I went there. It's a little island north of Cancun, a couple of hours, called Holbeck. No, Holbox Island. Wait, how do you say that? Holbox, yeah, Holbox, Holbox Island, and um, and there's this black hole there, which we'll get into at some point in the future. So let me move on. So Linda Sheely passed away many years ago, and she had a theory that the pyramids that we see in the Yucatan Peninsula represent mountains, and the open areas, the plazas, represent seas or oceans. And I spoke to someone who knew her very well at the at one of the Mayan conferences, and he said yes, that was her theory. Not only that, but there's evidence that the Mayas had ways of putting a certain stone in place to deliberately cause flooding at the plazas. So that's consistent with my argument, right? One time I was in Chichen Itza, and there was a downpour and a bunch of tourists got sort of stranded, and so I stayed to help them because I always carry Boy Scout equipment, right? A couple of ponchos and stuff. And so while I was staying with them so they could all share my ponchos, I looked over at the main plaza at Chichen Itza, and I was which was a few meters away basically, and I was amazed to see it starting to make to flood, which caused like this little miniature Atlantic Ocean, which I'll talk to you about later. So my theory is that the the ancient Mayan uh, temple cities represent planets. If that's the case, if that's true, if that's accurate, then I think a good candidate for Mars is the city of Palenque. So I guess I took this picture, seeing how bad it is. Yeah, I took this picture. I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. I was in Palenque, and that's a beautiful place. But here's why I think Palenque is Mars, and I won't spend much time with this because I mainly want to get to the map of Earth. But there are lots of temple cities, and I've been to 2 dozen of them or so, and it's very rare that they have canals in them. And in fact, for all I know, Palenque is the only one with a canal in it, which is an attribute of Mars. Not only that, but Lord Tikal, who's buried in Palenque, and the Red Queen, who's buried next to him, they were both covered in red, like some sort of red dust, which is consistent with the concept of Mars. So here's one of the canals, and at Palenque. Very rare that you see this. Like for instance, in Chichen Itza, to show the Nile River, which you'll see, they don't they don't use water. They use a stone wall because canals and things are very rarely found in the Yucatan. So continuing my idea about the cities representing um, planets, the ancient Mayan temple cities representing planets. So in Tikal, down in Guatemala, um, there's a theory which is not mine, but I think it's accurate. It's at least consistent with my theory that the city of Tikal is laid out like the Pleiades, and I have dug into that a little bit and found some interesting things. So if those ancient temple cities are planets, one question it raises for me is is the size of the temple city representative of the size of the planet? In other words, if we have Mayan temple cities A and B, and A is smaller than B, then does that mean that planet A is smaller than planet B? Which is interesting for me. One of the interesting things that I learned at the Mesoamerican meeting in 2018, because I took a course in how to read Mayan hieroglyphics, is that each temple city has an emblem glyph. It's almost like an address, which means once we learn to read all those glyphs in the Yucatan, we don't know how to read them all yet, but that day's coming, I'm sure. It'll be like um, if we see that there's an emblem glyph, for instance, for Tikal, which there is, and you see at the bottom of the screen here, and an emblem glyph for Palenque, then that would probably mean that there was some relationship between the planets represented by Tikal and the planets represented by Palenque. So in other words, the Pleiadians and the in quotes Martians at Palenque. Nope, I can't prove any of this. It's theory that I'm working on you know, proving and disproving at the same time. Right? I've spent the past 10 years or so trying to falsify my hypothesis, my theory, and so far I haven't been able to to falsify it. One of the most fascinating things in the Yucatan is the sock bays. I think the sock bays represent interplanetary magnetic fields, and that's how people will travel through space and time because you can't use jet propulsion, right? Everything's too far away. You can't carry that much gas. Okay, I think I will stop here and then make another video. Thank you for listening.